Good morning, afternoon, evening, and night to all. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in to the seventh ATSCast. Wow, it's been seven already. This is your neighborhood dude, Jude, your host. With me is the rest of the ATS Heartbeat in alphabetical order. Say what's up, Aaron?
What's up, dude?
Abid?
Hello, hello.
Oh, my voice cracked when I say Abid. That's crazy. Anyway, Jason?
Yeah, that's my tagline, but hello.
Get
What's up,
fucked,
guys?
Jason. Yeah.
Wait, what? Anyway, thank you to my boys again for always being here, both in and out podcast.
Damn,
So
bro.
to our
That
viewers,
got deep, bro. Damn.
Damn, bro. Yo, bro, I love you, bro.
I feel the love
don't worry about it.
tonight.
Mahal kita, bro.
Clearly, it's that kind of day, huh? Even here, even within the podcast. I hope you
Yeah,
viewers are feeling as pumped, if not more pumped than we are. But we're surely going to be pumped because the topics for this episode are pretty interesting for all of us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're pretty interesting.
I mean, yeah, I can hard relate on whatever topic we're gonna discuss. So yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
factuals.
So, in the last episode, we talked about games that we play for pleasure, for utmost pleasure, to simply relax and unwind after a busy and stressful day. So, the past week, for me, has seen an uptick of videos on the new Microsoft Flight Simulator game, and the plot it's been receiving for the realistic interpretation of flying a plane and the experience of going around the world. Well, surely then flying a plane around with minimal to none guidance is fun. Otherwise this game wouldn't have been as popular as it is. And add to the fact that flying is something the world hasn't done since, well, the pandemic has spread across the world. um, this nostalgia and lore for flying brings us a question that I want to give to the boys. What is it that makes flying experiences so enjoyable? And Abid, would you like to start?
Ooh. Oh, of course, of course. I think it all depends really, because I know people who are scared of flying, and I know people who love flying, me included. Um, I think the concept of travel is something that we humans find super fascinating, and just more like just exploring and trying to figure out trying to travel is something very inherently human, I feel. And
Mm-hmm.
wanting to travel, I feel like, is the main reason why flying itself is probably in the forefront of everything, because it is the fastest way to travel, and it is probably the only way you can really travel from one end of the earth to the other, right? Unless you want to live in the 1800s or something and take a boat.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, I think the appeal is through traveling and exploring. I think that's where air travel really, lies, and that's where the appeal comes from.
I see. Aaron, do you have any thoughts regarding that?
Well, I think personally for me, I've always been. I can't say that I love flying. For me, it's
Ooh,
more of
okay.
a routine. Of course, I do like the experience of being up in the air and stuff, but I've traveled so much in my life that I've kind of started to see it as something of like a car ride. It's like I'm taking a grab from location A to B. So nowadays I don't really enjoy the flight as much, but I don't hate it as well. So for me, it's more practical. What makes what the appeal of travel for me is the fact that I can get from point A to point B quick, and also the fact that it's comfortable. If my flight is comfortable, then I enjoy it. Uh, you know, it doesn't matter. I don't really think about anything else. For me, it's just more practicality in that sense. So yeah.
I see. So, are you saying that the frequency of flying, using airplanes as a means of transport, if you use it a lot, that would decrease chances of you being romanticized with the idea of flying, in a way?
I, I do think there's some truth to that, but I also think it also stems from your own individual passion for flying. So
Okay.
if I've never really been one that's been I've never really been one that romanticized flying since I was young. And I guess part of the reason would be that I was exposed to flying at a very young age. So,
Mhm.
but I'm sure people that like my dad or all my parents travel a lot for work, and I don't see any of them romanticize flying because work, traveling for work is something that's so normalized for them. Like what I mentioned earlier, it's almost like you're taking a grab to your location. The difference is it's more, of a strenuous process and it's a longer process. But at the end of the day, if you do something so much, right? I'm sure getting into a car for the first time would be romanticized. But nowadays, since we drive every day, it's just it's not anything that crazy. So I'm sure there's some truth to what you said.
I see. Okay. That is a very interesting opinion. But do you think now that flying has been, well, not technically canceled, but flying has been minimized because of the pandemic, has that changed your views in any way?
Mm, I don't think so because I think personally for me, the pandemic, the no flight zone in the pandemic is kind of
Yeah.
a small speck in like the broad perspective of my life per se, in the sense that it's been a year of no flying. And I nowadays once I started going to college, I stopped really going overseas that often, maybe once a year. So for me, this is just like a year without flying, which I don't mind. So even if I go overseas for holiday next year, or in Malaysia we can travel nationally. When I flew to Langkawi, it really isn't anything that is special for me, I would say. And I don't know what it would take to get that romanticized view of flying back, but I'm sure for some people that do still have a lot of passion for flying, this pandemic would have definitely rebuilt that passion for them.
That's true. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your opinion because that is one opinion. I think me and Abid are on the opposite spectrum of that, where still flying
Big
still has
facts. I love flying, bro. But
Yeah.
that
anyway, yeah.
romantic aspect, that aspect of the desirability, regardless of how frequent we use it. So, Jason, where do you fall in this camp?
I will have to agree with both Abid and Jude. I enjoy flying. I think a lot of people who get to experience flying. I mean, not no disrespect. But I think some people take flying for granted, and I definitely enjoy it every single time because um my dad used to own a travel agency growing up, and with every opportunity that he has, to travel for work sometimes, or there's like an annual trip, he would take me along, and it's just it's just the feeling of just being in the air is just I would live for. It's such an incredible feeling to be in the air, and just looking out, and just I don't know. It may not seem as like a real luxury for some people, but I think it's a privilege, and I enjoy it so much. And no matter where I'm heading, even this short distance or a long haul, anywhere, yeah, that's where I fall.
Yeah, that is true. I think we all are frequent flyers in that regard because, we study abroad from our home countries. And that's why it is interesting to see such a differing opinion regarding that aspect. And we in no mean are, devaluing Aaron's opinion. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of frequent flyers, especially businessmen who share Aaron's opinions on that regard. Um, but another question would be if you were to describe to a person who's never flown before what the experience is like, how would you say that? How would you describe that? Jason, would you like to go first?
Oh,
Like in a
I
very candid manner. Like,
yeah, I mean, I personally say it's just like taking it's like riding a roller coaster, but
oh,
really,
that is
Wait
crazy.
a
really.
minute.
What
Wait
type
a
of
minute.
flights
Like,
you been on,
How
fam?
much
Damn.
how
okay,
much
okay,
turbulence
okay.
have you had,
I
bro?
mean,
That's a lot,
Are
okay,
there
bro.
let
airlines
me
or what?
Wait,
explain.
wait,
let me
Bro,
explain.
snakes on a
I,
plane on that bitch, dude. Damn.
maybe just like the takeoff
Go on, Jason.
experience and the when you're anticipating a huge drop or something, or yeah, because like sometimes you experience turbulence, but not as wild as a roller coaster, obviously. But yeah, that's I don't really know, but yeah, that's the first thing that came to my mind for sure. So yeah.
Oh, that is really crazy. I don't think. I mean, that's one way to describe it. Like, if I told a 6-year-old child that an airplane's like a roller coaster, I feel like he or she would be discouraged to ride a
You
plane.
think,
That is
right?
true. That is true. But yeah.
But yeah, that's a very
But
imaginative
not
way of
like
saying it.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
I
even
totally
like
get
a
what you mean, though.
actual roller coaster though. But it's like I don't know.
Yeah, but I generally do get what you mean because the procedures in telling you, oh, this is how your seatbelt should be fastened, and this is what happens in the event of an emergency. It does feel very risky in
It's
a sense,
stable,
right?
not a
Yeah.
crazy roller coaster. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, Aaron, do you have the similar
Yeah.
way of
Well, I think Jason's
describing?
analogy of flying and a roller coaster, definitely the person he's talking to will not fly after Jason talks to them.
Yeah.
Well, if I had to explain the experience of flying to somebody for the first time, I would definitely say it's very fascinating. I think anyone would be, wowed by just the experience of getting into a plane, being able to travel vast distances that you could never imagine, that you can't even comprehend at the time, and then looking out the window, seeing the skies. I think that's something that's very fascinating. And even till today, even though I said that it's not really romanticized for me, and it isn't, one thing I do enjoy is looking out through the window and looking at the clouds, right? And I think for someone that has never flown before, it's hard to explain that experience to them. So the word I would use is it's fascinating and it is a must-try experience. But yeah.
Hmm. That is true. Yeah. Well, Abid?
For me, it would depend on who the person I'm talking to is. I think my response would be very different based on mostly age, I feel, rather than anything else, and whether they're somewhat interested or excited, or if they're scared. I think my response would be varied. I
I
wouldn't
see.
want to tell someone who's scared that it's like a roller coaster to calm them down. But as you said, if I was talking to an 80-year-old, I'd be like, well, if you've seen cartoons, you've seen people fly above the clouds, and they're just enjoying themselves, right? Same thing. It would be the same thing. You're above the clouds, you're gonna be in the sky, you're gonna be like a bird. That's what it would be like. That's why I'd say to a kid, to someone a little older, I'd be like, it's a once in a lifetime experience. Because
Hmm.
as much as flying has become, well, not a privilege as much, it still is. Um, yeah, flying, although, I mean, it isn't seen as much as a privilege due to low cost airlines and all these new ways to fly, which has made it significantly and substantially more able for people to fly. I think it still is somewhat a unique experience. It's a once in a lifetime experience, as I said before, and you really can't replicate it in any other way, I don't think. So if it's someone older, I would definitely prescribe or say, like, just go in, enjoy yourself, look out the window, get a window seat. That's the one thing I would prioritize for someone flying for the first time, and if they're kind of looking forward to it, get a window seat, watch yourself take off into the air, 35,000 feet or whatever it may be, and just enjoy yourself in the clouds, and just look forward to your destination, really. Because as much as life is about, getting to the destination, I mean, from getting from one destination to another, the journey is what really should be looked upon more and thought about more. So yeah, again, it would vary
Well,
from depending on age demographics, but
mhm,
for the most part, I would say just go and enjoy it, like
I
try it
see.
out.
Well, you touched on a point about low-cost airlines, Abid, and I extend this question to the rest of
Yes,
y'all. Do you
sir.
think low cost airlines have given that experience to more people, or have they diluted the experience? Where would you fall on that?
Okay, for me, it's both.
It's both.
I think it takes away the glamour from flying a little bit because the services you get aren't as substantial and as well glamorous really as mainstream traditional airlines, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, sure, you could be flying for $45 or whatever, or $30, right? But that's literally just a seat. You're not getting anything else from it. Um, Whereas I think flying, as we enjoyed, is the whole experience of getting on board, seeing your flight take off, getting a meal, having a drink service or whatever it may be, and like really fulfill that whole package of what flying has been since its inception in the 50s and 60s, um,
Hmm.
into what is modern day, just a travel, what Aaron was saying, which is just getting from point A to point B. So I guess it also depends on what you're looking for in that sense. Is it
Yeah.
value of money versus a more wholehearted experience? But I do
Hmm.
think it allows and enables a different class of people that previously would never have thought about flying or even tried to fly, and gives them the option to, hey, at least we can get on a plane and see what all the fun is about or hype is about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Jason, you pointed out that it used to be flying used to be known as a an activity of luxury, and now it's kind of losing that status because of the ability for many people to fly. What do you think on this regard? Do low cost airlines dilute help dilute that, or do they just allow more people to experience that joy?
I think it has on both ends as well. It has provided more experience to the people, and it does allow like a lot more people to fly. Like people that I've talked to who have never been on a plane, recently have the privilege to because of cheap air costs. But again, I think with with how cheap it is, um people take it as like a common transport right now from point A to B. Instead of, let's say, if people could drive from Malaysia to Singapore, which would take like
Hmm.
depending from where you're coming from, honestly, it would take like 4 or 5 hours. With such cheap air costs now, people see another alternative, by just paying maybe less than. Sometimes I see flights like just over 100 or 150 or 200 ringgit. I'm not sure. I'm just guessing. But sometimes there are days which are that cheap, so which allows people to fly. And if you think about it, if they stop for gas and they're on their way, they're still gonna have to pay it around the same amount. But I think yeah, it has definitely allow more people to travel, and people are definitely just it taking advantage and at some point.
Hmm. Yeah, that is true. Well, Aaron, what are your thoughts on that? Mm. Where do you lay on this
Um,
spectrum?
well, I think there's truth to both sides of the question. Whereas, where it's provided the experience to more people, and it's also diluted it. But I think that the emphasis has been more on the dilution of the experience because, speaking from personal experience, I don't remember the last time I took a flight somewhere without trying to find the cheapest option. And like nowadays, if I want to fly to, when we were flying to countries in Southeast Asia, my first choice is to, what is the budget option? It's AirAsia. I'm gonna take an AirAsia flight there, and of course, it's a low cost airline, and it cuts on the experience to give you the price. And I don't remember the last time anyone's come to me paying extra for a flight because it has a better experience. And I think nowadays with all these low cost airlines, like it's flying has almost been like carpooling or like taking a Grab. Like you want the cheapest option. You have Uber, you have Grab, you have whatever other Lyft, right? And you want to make a choice to get from point A to point B, but you want to pick the cheapest choice. I do think, yes, there are a lot of people that have flown thanks to low cost budget airlines, and a lot of people have been able to experience that, the thrill of flight. But I think now in this day and age, because it's been so normalized, flying is so normalized now, I think it's definitely shifted more from flying for the experience, and now it's flying for what's cheaper, how to get efficiently from point A to point B, how to save the most money getting from point A to point B, unless of course if you're balling in dough, right? But yeah.
Right. Yeah, that is one way to. That's one succinct way to look at it, like the normalization of experiences. And since we're here not to talk about what is typical of a plane, but instead like what are our own personal experiences on a plane, I share this question: what are your best and worst experiences on a plane? Um, so, Abid, would you like to start off?
Boy, do I.
Boy,
Boy.
doesn't sound very.
Nah. I'm
Go ahead.
probably the biggest av geek in every friend circle that I'm in. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
I'm probably a big airhead in that sense. I've been flying since I was 8 months old, which I mean, granted, it is a big privilege. It has been a big privilege. I've traveled to over 22 countries in the world. Um, so yes, I have had multiple experiences with flying. And my best one would probably have to be when I flew. There's two that come to my mind quite instantly. The one was back in 2011, I want to say, or 2012. I've been an av geek my entire life. My dad and I are super into planes. We just love planes and talking about planes and airlines and stuff. Um, in 2011, I flew the Airbus A380, which is the biggest commercial plane in the world, and for the first time in my life, and it was in business class too. I was very blessed to do that. It was a short flight, unfortunately. It was like an hour long. It's from Jeddah to Dubai, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia to Dubai in the UAE. But that was probably my most like awestruck moment, and it was a moment I'd been looking forward to at that point since I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And it was just hype. It was a good time. The seat was good. The service was good. The aircraft was amazing. All my dreams came true quite essentially for that hour and a half um, on the hop. Um, but it was a very unique experience, once in a lifetime for sure. And that's
That's
one that comes.
definitely
Yeah,
the first time experience is what really sticks with you, huh?
yeah. It's the first time experience on something that I'd been looking forward to pretty much for my entire life at that point. Um,
Mhm.
and the second one would be when I flew Qatar for the first time last year. Um, I mean, I'd over the years, I'd obviously Qatar is probably the best airline in the world, or top two, three for sure. And I'd built up all this hype, and they did not disappoint whatsoever. We flew economy class, but still, even in economy, like their service was impeccable. We had we had menus in economy class, which is not very normal. Um, if anyone's flown economy class, it's very very rare. We had multiple meal services, and my dad literally got two different meals in economy class, which is kind of like like what? But Qatar pulled up, and they gave my dad two meals, um, even though you're usually entitled to one. Um, but yeah, they met. They went over their expectations. Crew was amazing. Flight was amazing. The plane itself, although I've flown on it too many times now, the aircraft type itself, I was still excited to see what Qatar's take on it. My worst experience would have to be, from what I can remember, it's not honestly not even the airline related. but I was flying back to Bangladesh from Malaysia, Bangladesh, um, and it was a Regent Airways flight, and they had I want to say an MD-83. Um, but anyway, basically we flew back. It's normally a 3.5 hour flight back, but due to weather conditions, we had to divert and land in Kolkata in India, or Calcutta, whatever you want, in India, and we were
Yeah.
stuck in the plane because um, obviously you need a visa to get into India if you're from Bangladesh, XD. But also they didn't want to deplane anyone purely because there would be a very difficult immigration process and all that. So we were stuck on the plane in Kolkata waiting for fog to clear up because it was foggy above the Dhaka airport for 3.5 or 4 hours. So longer than the flight itself. We were stuck on a plane in a city we didn't no one could leave the plane on. And eventually we finally got back to Dhaka, but like yeah, that was probably the worst experience.
I mean, that sounds like a claustrophobe's nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly, it was pretty bad. My mom was not having a good time either. She was just like, "I'm gonna sleep," and I slept for most of it. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad your latter experiences were not similar to that.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
see. Yeah, that's true. Thanks, Abid, for sharing. Aaron?
Whew, we're talking about best and worst experiences, right?
Or do you have too many experiences to look at?
Similar to Abid, I've been flying since I
Big
was,
flex, bro.
you know,
Wow. Okay, go on.
it's not really much of a flex. It was just because my parents were
I'm
shifting
No,
countries.
it's just
I'm
a
just playing
kappa.
around.
If
Yeah,
the viewers
it's
do
all
not
good.
know.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah, I mean the viewers don't know, so it does sound like a flex, but it wasn't really flying for luxury. It was more, I was traveling a lot when I was really young because I was moving countries a lot. So I think my best flying experience. I don't remember the exact age I was at, but I remember being very young enough to not really understand what's going on. I think it was a flight to the US. Or to Australia. I'm not too sure. I think it was to the US, and I think I was flying Cathay Pacific. And Cathay Pacific at the time was, the cream of the crop when it came to airlines, in my opinion at least. And me and my two siblings, we were flying without a guardian. We were doing the unaccompanied minor thing, where you don't have a guardian, but then your guardian picks you up when you land and stuff.
Yeah, man.
So we were sitting in economy class, and the stewardess saw the three of us, just some couple of kids, and she started talking to us. And she was really friendly, really nice, and she actually moved us to first class. And then she sat and talked with us when she was free, and she gave us chocolates and stuff. And they were just really like the whole steward, like the whole cabin crew staff were just really friendly, and they did a good job in making us feel very comfortable when we were flying without our parents. And that was one of my fondest memories of flight. At such an early age, I was like, people are very nice, and they took care of us, and they made sure that our flight, it was a long flight, and they made sure that we had a good time. When it comes to the opposite spectrum, when we're talking about the worst experience, um, I've had a lot of bad experiences flying, but I never really let it bother me as much. But one of my worst experiences flying would have to be, I'm not too sure where I was flying from, but I think it was a short distance. It was somewhere in Southeast Asia. I think it may have been from Thailand back to Malaysia. And I was flying with my family, and my mom hates flying. She's absolutely scared. Like she'll be shaking the moment there's like light turbulence, right? And this time flying, there was some major turbulence. Like it was really severe. And, plane was shaking. It was almost like it was just vibrating nonstop. And we kept going in these like air pockets. When you hit clear air turbulence, the plane kind of drops a bit. And my mom was like praying. She was like, oh, she was so scared. And even though I can kind of tune out the turbulence myself, this time I was actually quite worried myself. And having to like comfort my mom and seeing how shook she was after during the flight definitely made it an experience that I would remember, not in a good way. So
Mhm.
yeah, that would have to be my worst and best.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, before we go into Jason and Aaron, were you nervous as a kid? Can you imagine, like, as an unaccompanied minor? I mean, you had your sister, but
Yeah.
theoretically, it's still a pretty. In Jason's words, it's a roller coaster, right? So,
Yeah.
were you,
Got him.
I mean,
were you
luckily, I didn't have a stranger like Jason come up to me and explain it to me like that. Then I'm sure I would have been worried. But
You can imagine the flight attendant going like, "Oh, buckle your seatbelt, boys, because it's about
We're
to be
going
fun."
for a ride.
just wait for the drop, and I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm sure I was definitely worried. When I was a kid, I was a scaredy cat. So I'm sure. Well, I was so young, I don't even remember exactly how I felt, but I'm sure I was worried. But I think I don't really remember the worry and the fear of traveling uh, during that flight because of the good memories overpower those feelings. So when I look back, I don't really feel like it was a bad experience when it comes to worry and fear, because I'm just thinking about, I had a really good time and I remember enjoying. I remember like talking about it when I landed, like, oh, that was really nice, So
Yeah, I
yeah,
see. That
Yo,
is a
I
really
want to
cool
say,
experience.
I vouch Cathay Pacific too, Aaron, and
Cathay Pacific was so
I
nice back then,
second
dude.
that because I
my
use that every time I
yeah,
go
you
back to
use it
Malaysia.
frequently, but it was the first time I traveled alone too, and I used Cathay, and services is. I was old enough to not have to be accompanied, but my mom, being my mom, of course, she was like, yeah, you guardian drop, guardian pick up. So I was like, okay. And I had to go through that, but Cathay did an amazing job. And the people were super nice, and it was great.
They were very
Their
friendly.
service was really great.
A bit off on a tangent. It's kind of sad that Cathay Pacific is really not doing the best right now.
Well, I generally hope they recover because
Yeah,
it's linked to the Hong Kong.
Yeah,
yeah,
I really hope they recover.
that's true.
Like, Ixon is a frequent traveler to Hong Kong, so because your sister.
Perfect
Good meme,
lead-in.
dude.
Perfect one.
So
Perfect
Jason,
one.
what's your thoughts? What are your best and worst experiences on a plane?
Uh, I have, I'd say one of my best experiences, definitely has to be as well, flying Cathay Pacific actually, because it was one of my first times.
Oh, gee.
It was one of my first times flying. And my aunt actually works as a first class like stewardess. So,
Okay.
she was like, yeah, so she was like, um, just wait till the end, and it was like me and my sister flying at that time, because my parents was already in Hong Kong, so we were flying off unaccompanied minor, so pretty much like Aaron. um, but yeah, we didn't know what to expect, but their service was so great, and we eventually got upgraded to business class because my aunt got us some. It was not a full flight that day. I'm not sure how old was I, but we had like the aisle seat, and which is like one of the front rows, I believe. Um, and yeah, that was like one of my first times experiencing like business class and stuff, and it was sick. Their service, the food, the menu, and everything was just great. So yeah, that has to be one of the best experiences I've had. Another one I'd say would be flying the A380. I'm not sure. Wait, let's see. Was it? Yeah, it's Emirates. Emirates A380 when I was flying home from the first time from Dubai to KL. So that was it was so smooth, like one of the smoothest like flights I've ever been on, and again, service is great. And I've got access to first class for some because my I don't know why, I don't remember how, but yeah.
Yeah, true
I mean, I got
flex.
to
True
see
flex. I don't even
the
remember how, but I was
the
in first
upper.
class. Damn.
Facts,
No,
dude.
no, no,
Facts.
not being in first
Actually,
class. I didn't sit in first class. I mean, I've been to the top and just got a view of the first class. They took me around. I don't know why, but yeah. It was a great time. For For the worst experience, I would have to say it was my flight from Virginia to Florida. And we were taking United Airways.
Shout out to United. They do no wrong.
Uh,
Psych.
Or
one of
it's
the
a
most.
really it's a team, isn't it? American Airlines, not American
What
Airlines company, but just
Bro, American-based
airlines based in
airlines, that
America.
could be a
Yeah, it's
separate
just
podcast on its own, dude. I'm down.
Yikes, dog.
It
crazy.
is. It is. It is the most terrible flight I've ever been on. Service is like fucking awful. And I think the worst part of that was when we were arriving. So the pilot, as we're descending onto the platform, right? Um, he touched, and then he took off again, and then he touched down again and flew off again like 3 times. Because apparently our like our our what's it called? Stop was not clear. The area where the plane should be stopped was not available yet, so he had to like take off and touch down like multiple times. So we went back into the air again, then we make a U-turn and we came back down, and we did the same thing twice, and we were like, what the fuck is going on? And it was so bad. My mom is exactly like your mom, Aaron. She hates
Yeah.
flying. She shakes, and she was like literally shaking, and I was just like, oh, this is a bad start to the holiday. But yeah, that has to be the worst experience.
Star
Shout
Alliance
out.
member, by the way, dude. Shout out to United
Uh,
Airlines for real. I don't know how they're still in that alliance, bro. Straight up, no cap. Them and Air India, it makes no sense to me. Anyway, sorry, Jude, go.
Yep.
no, go. It's fine. I mean, as you said, American Airlines can be in itself a
Dude,
podcast on its own, right?
honestly.
That's true. Well, I mean, my best experience is also in a Cathay Pacific flight because, well, look who's here, Like Cathay Pacific has just been the gold bearer of airline quality.
True.
So I got that experience. It wasn't a business class, and that was my only time riding in non-economy. Well, the only one out of two times that I flew a non-economy class flight. So my dad got an upgrade since he was a frequent flyer to business class, and he allowed me to get it because that was going to be my last holiday with the family before I moved to America, and so it had a sentimental value to it as well. But if we're talking about the flight itself, man, it was amazing since it's Cathay Pacific. Like not only is the service impeccable, but I was just lying on business class seats like a sleeping cat, just like just watching in-flight entertainment and just enjoying it. And I remember tuning into Suicide Squad because it was the one DC movie I haven't watched fully yet, and I didn't even finish the movie. It was that short of a flight. It was from Hong Kong to an island in the Philippines. It was barely 2 hours. But yeah, that was my best experience. So yeah, my worst experience is it's weird because I don't particularly have anything against Malaysia Airlines, but it was a Malaysia Airlines flight to Sydney, and I was pretty young at that time, and I was traveling with my family. But I I presume it was because I was young that I didn't get noticed by the flight attendants at all because I was sitting at the other side of the aisle. So since we are a family of five and the seats were fully taken for that flight, like in the middle four was the other four people in my family because my dad was already in the destination, so it was just the five of us. So me, my mom, and my two brothers and my helper. And yeah, so I was sitting on the other side of the aisle, and the flight attendant, I think she knew that I was part of the family, but she didn't ask me for food or such. She went straight to my mom regarding these matters, and in the end, I didn't even get the food at all. I had to recall the staff to be like, "Wait, where's my food?" And I was what? I was 12. I didn't look like a kid. I'm pretty sure I didn't look like a kid enough to be like, okay, you need to have all your matters tended by your parents. And I was on the other side of the aisle, so my parents couldn't technically pass me the food if if they're collecting it for me. So it was just a very awkward experience because I was waiting for my food while everyone around me was eating. Um, and even when I did get the food, it was what, a half an hour later. Like, airplane food can be pretty vile sometimes. Yeah, it took away from the experience, and I that being my worst experience also shows how enjoyable my flights have been so far. But yeah, uh, that has to be my worst experience.
Malaysian hospitality, dude. I don't worry about
I
it.
mean,
MH,
no,
bro.
Don't worry
every
about it.
hey,
MH.
Yeah, dude. Don't
every other
worry about
flight was amazing though. I will, of course, I will like vouch for Malaysia Airlines. They are really good.
I
But
agree. I mean, Malaysian Airlines, they were probably at their peak right before the unfortunate disasters and the
really
overall
unfortunate
Malaysian
time.
recession and everything. But, I
Mhm.
mean, now it's a different story altogether. But, yeah,
That's
I
true.
agree. I agree. Malaysian Airlines was still pretty up to mark.
And I feel like they're still doing well, considering they've been lowering their fares as well to keep up with demand, right? The quality hasn't really shrunk as much as you'd think it has with the price. So,
I
Um,
mean, I think
I feel like the quality has shrunk a lot, to be
the
honest.
quality has
oh,
shrunk a
okay.
lot.
I
It
mean,
really
I
has.
agree with that. The quality has
Uh,
gone down,
Yeah,
but that's also
yeah.
because their fares went down purely because they
Yeah.
couldn't
very
sell
low
seats.
actually.
They
Yeah,
Yeah.
couldn't sell seats.
Because
I
I mean,
mean,
we're
my
comparing it to Malaysian Airlines of before, which was at the pinnacle.
Honestly,
At a certain
it
time they
was,
were.
yeah, up there. They were
Yeah.
probably only contested by Thai Airways in Southeast Asia, to be honest.
Singapore.
I mean,
Singapore.
Singapore,
Singapore
obvious.
Airlines, right? Singapore Airlines,
Singapore
obviously.
is something else. I don't
Yeah,
even
yeah,
consider them
Yeah. Yeah.
Southeast Asian.
True.
that's true.
At that point.
I mean, I think my experience is also because I took one of their most in-demand flights. What was it?
The
Was it
Sydney
the
route.
77 to Narita? Like they only have two. It was part of the new class. Was it the Dream? I think it was the Dreamliners.
Okay,
Like
yeah. If you
the
have the
ones,
new
yeah,
aircraft, I think the aircraft
the
just
newer
makes your
airlines.
experience 10 times better, dude.
That's true. Yeah. Anyway, since we are on the topic of worst experiences, a lot of what I've heard about, airplane experiences um, from people, the most stressful part for them were experiences within immigration and security after. So not necessarily on the plane itself, but on the airports at takeoff and at landing. So checking bags, filling forms, and hurrying through lanes to get to your boarding gate on time. Um, do all of you share a similar negative impression on the immigration part of the journey, considering you didn't have it as your worst experiences uh, as part of the flight?
Very much so. Yes, I can vouch. Immigration is a pain, particularly if you're from. Okay, I didn't even know if you were gonna put it as an open question, but I'm just gonna take the
Is
lead
it?
here.
Is, yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm just taking the lead on this. I think it is very immigration is probably the most frustrating and worrisome part of air travel. I think travel in general, to be honest, whether you're going by car even or a bus or whatever, but I think particularly in the air, it's just worse because air travel is a little more expensive and you're taking out a lot more of your day. It's a lot more. There's a lot more security involved too, right? Um, but yeah, it's as someone who comes from a country which doesn't really have the best power in terms of passport and requires a visa to just about everywhere. Yes, immigration is quite the hassle and quite a worry no matter when I travel, Even if I have the visa, there's something in the back of my mind like if something goes wrong, I'm just getting sent back, or something like that. And it's frustrating because even if everything's valid, my passport is from a country that although the country is great and all that, it's not looked that prestigiously, looked at that prestigiously. Hence us not having basically visa free access to any countries, but it probably is the hardest part of everything.
Yeah, you're right. No, like they do make it feel as if you're doing something wrong, even when you're impeccably fine. Like you're doing everything legally, especially like the immigration officers tend to have a very assertive demeanor, a very intimidating demeanor. I guess that's the best way to put it.
so intimidating. They're very much so intimidating. I agree with that. But it's
Mhm.
part of their job too, right? They want to make sure everything's going on properly,
That
and
is
I
true.
understand that. But like, you can be less of a dick about it too. That's just how it, like, simply said, you know.
Hmm. I mean, do the other two have any similar experiences, or have the immigration just been kind to y'all? Considering you both
Um,
have Malaysian passports, is there?
yeah.
You've been privileged.
I've
Okay,
I've
anyway.
never really had issues with immigration per se because of my passport. Malaysian passport traveling through countries in Southeast Asia is pretty smooth, to be honest, and I don't have to deal with immigration on the way in or the way out of Malaysia because of automated exit and entry. So I've never really had interactions with immigration staff in the Malaysian airport. When it comes to immigration staff within for other countries that I'm going to, I've actually never really had issues. You know, even when I go to the US, because I'm considered an American citizen, I don't have trouble. I feel like that's where you would have the most trouble if you're going to the US, right? Places in North America. Coming from Southeast Asia, I'm sure there would be a lot more like, oh, where are you from? What are you doing here? I've never really had to experience that, and they've always been very kind to me. If I did have to mention a worse experience, it would probably be in Singapore. Was it Singapore? I think it might have been Singapore, yeah, where a bit of my passport was folded. Just a slight bit of the page was like kind of bent a bit. And then they were very stringent on protocol, which is, oh, this passport is void the moment it's damaged. And I'm like, dude, it's just slightly bent. Like, I'll get it changed, but you know, you can't detain me here as if I don't have a passport. It's slightly bent. You're looking at the passport, and you know, they were making a big deal out of it. And not only that, but then while they were detaining me for this, they confiscated. Okay, this is kind of stupid, but I brought a pen knife by accident. It was by accident. I,
Uh,
I meant to check it in,
This is
but for some
such an
reason,
Aaron story, dude. Sorry.
yeah, it was. I meant to check it in, but it was in my backpack by accident, and I didn't even know it was in there because I like sometimes I bring a backpack and I don't know what's in the backpack. So there was like this really nice penknife that my late grandfather gave me, and it was like it meant a lot to me, but I forgot to check it in. So when we stopped by the when we were at Singapore, when we were just doing a transition, they not a transition site when we were getting off in Singapore, they found it, and then I was like kind of annoyed that they're detaining me for the passport thing. So this kind of like added salt to the wound, even though I knew they rightfully should have taken it. But yeah, that would have to be my worst experience. A bad experience I've had with immigration, in the sense that when I left, I was like, man, I don't like this place. I'm not in a good mood, sort of thing. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad security's doing their job though, because a penknife is a pretty,
True. I mean, I was
pretty
12.
serious.
I was like 12. But like, yeah, I guess.
I love the randomness of that though. I was expecting, like, oh, the guys were really intimidating and the guys were really,
Yeah, I did
very
not
rude to
expect a
me.
pen knife.
Instead
Yeah,
we get Aaron like, oh, I'm the rude person. I got pen knife.
I mean the intimidation stuff. Like, I wouldn't call them out for it because I completely understand. Like, you know, the amount of shit they have to deal with. Like kids like me with
Yeah.
pen knives, right? And like other things, you know. So
It's like
they
you,
have
Aaron.
they're basically guards to a certain extent, right? They're guarding the
Yeah.
entrance to the country. So they act accordingly, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. When they start being rude, overly rude, and you know, mean, or if they start working on racial profiling and stuff, that's when, you know, that's where the line should be drawn. But if they're just being guards
That's
and then they're doing their job, then I wouldn't call them out for that. So yeah.
Well, it's you frequent flyers with pen knives that are causing the trouble among security, huh?
Yeah,
It's an
Hey, we
interesting
get it.
insight.
apparently, dude.
We get it.
That's the
Oh
reason my
dear. I feel
flights
like
are delayed, dude. Straight up.
I feel like if Aaron was in the right airport, so if it was in Singapore, maybe if it was, like a Vancouver port or Sydney, like he would be part of the
Oh, he's
episodes of,
100. Yo,
border
for real.
security.
He's hard, dude.
Factuals
He's
though.
actually. Dude, he
Do you
wouldn't
know what's
have that.
the?
Do you still have that penknife, by the way?
No, they took it away.
They took it away. I mean,
Easy
rightfully
job.
so, but
Yeah.
bro, they would have made it a bigger deal than I'm pretty sure they already did.
Yeah, it would have been quality content. Just
It would
saying,
have
Aaron,
been
you would have been more
very
famous.
good.
Do you know what's the wait? Do you know what's the funniest part? is that they didn't find the penknife when I left Malaysian airport.
Sounds about right.
Because it was
Oh,
a
wow.
now that I remember, it was a transition from, when you go to US, we go Malaysia, Singapore,
Mhm.
Hong
Malaysian
Kong,
customs.
then yeah. So when I went through Malaysia and I took the flight from Malaysia to Singapore, they didn't find the penknife. So like hypothetically, if I were to use the penknife, as a tool on that flight, they wouldn't have found out. They only found it when I entered Singapore, transitioned to go to was it Hong Kong or Tokyo? When I transitioned to go to Hong Kong or Tokyo, then they were like, "Dude, you got a penknife in your bag," and I was like, "Oh shit, whoops." Yeah, so that's just interesting to mention. But yeah.
Whoops, indeed. If any of our viewers are immigration officers in Malaysia, please let them know.
Please work harder.
But yeah,
Okay.
that well, I won't go to that extent. But I mean, that is such a story, Aaron. So, Jason, I don't know. Do you have any experiences in airports that are similar?
For the most part, immigration is never really a problem. But I think until the first time I went to the States, I believe, because um, I think there's a certain amount of like money you could carry, and I was carrying some of my dad's money, and they're like, uh, "Sir, we need to like sit you down at some office or something to ask you some questions while you're carrying so much of money." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I actually was one of the last to get out of the um yeah, I was one of the last ones to leave in terms of my family, the airport, because I was like being interrogated a lot. But yeah, other than that, um, nothing really, nothing really traumatic for me. So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that Jason. I mean, that you don't have as as wild of an experience as Aaron does. I mean, even in my case, right? Like, I don't typically have super wild experiences with immigration, but I know that I do have sluggish experiences. I do have stressful experiences with immigration, particularly here in LA. I think Los Angeles is just notorious as an airport with their handling of passengers. And this is not a criticism of them. I just think it's because of their status as, a hub for people to go through America. Like, the details of security would be more stringent than where you see elsewhere. And I feel like the same applies to New York, um, and all the other hubs in America. So yeah, it's just long lines and super intimidating officers with the dogs that sniff your bags as if you have drugs inside. Which you don't see in Asian airports, by the way. If even if they are, they're not as obvious. They don't, go around like sniffing your bags
Yeah, it's
explicitly.
not like you're visiting a prison or anything, right?
That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Here they're like, oh, I smell hot dog. I mean, I feel like that's what the dog thinks about when they see
Yeah.
a bunch of passengers from Asia carrying their items that you're not supposed to bring, which happens really common here in America. But yeah, that's all my worst experiences in a plane so far. So yeah,
So yeah, pretty much
I'm
the
glad it's.
TSA, dude. The TSA
Uh-huh.
is what you're saying.
Pretty much PSA, dude.
The TSA.
That's interesting though, because they do have an express pass, right? Where if you pay up,
Yeah,
you
and the
get
Nexus Pass. Mm-hmm.
mhm. That is that's one way to deal with it, I guess. Make money off of. I mean, no criticism again to TSA. I'm pretty sure they're doing their job fine.
Yeah, for sure. It is a way to
Hmm.
just make additional money. I agree with you on that.
That's true. Anyway, let's revert back to sense of comfort and sense of romanticism instead of the stress that we've been talking about with our immigration experiences. Since it's time for the anticipated question of the week, so y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Born
Yes,
ready.
Sirski.
This is a really off-field question, and I thought about it in my bed because the question is, what is your ideal sleeping environment? And
Ooh.
That's
yeah, uh,
Sleeping
I'll
environment?
start off first because I
yeah.
guess
Go,
Go
it's a
for it.
pretty
it was completely switching everything. I like it. Go for it.
yeah. I mean, my ideal sleep environment is curtains open, which is interesting, right? Because you think, especially me, as a late sleeper, you would want the curtains closed in order to, let less light out. But I like the natural factor of seeing the sun up when I wake up late. And I don't like the feeling of closed curtains giving you that claustrophobic sense in a room, because it does make it feel as if you're closed off from the rest of the world. At least that's what I think. Um, I would prefer a nightlight, but that it's not necessary. And a bit of ambient music at the back would be really helpful for me to go to sleep. Like, not necessarily like hit songs, just Final Fantasy music is what would be the ideal soundtrack to go to sleep to, like all the violin symphonies of
The OST.
yeah, the compilation of game soundtracks that they've had, and there's a lot. There's like 15 Final Fantasies. I mean, yeah, if viewers can't see the chat, but Jason's talking about Tifa. Yes, Tifa's Team is definitely one of the songs that I listen to. It's actually a
Yes,
really peaceful
sir.
song.
Tifa's
Tifa's Team is surprisingly don't forget Tifa, but forget the fact that Tifa is such a character. Like, the song itself is really good to sleep to. And yeah, preferably I'd like a big bed. Is it a Tempur? Like the mattress that's like, ooh, it's like really soft.
Tempur-Pedic, I
Yes,
think. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Tempur-Pedic,
Tempur-Pedic. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Not tempura, bro. Relax.
Tempura, wow, crazy, bro. But yeah, the Tempur. If I never had it as a personal bed, but I've tried it once for a night, and oh my god, it's amazing. Yeah, it's a pretty detailed sleeping environment. I guess you guys don't have to be as detailed, but that's how
Yeah,
important
you're right.
sleep is, guys. So who wants to start off first?
Yeah, I'll start off.
Go ahead.
So I've never really been too picky about my sleeping environment because I can sleep anywhere, dude.
This
You
is
put me on
facts.
hardwood
This is
floor, I can
facts.
sleep.
This is
I can just
facts.
go straight to sleep, and I'll have the best sleep of my life.
Bro, man
I can
sleep
vouch.
doesn't matter. Dude,
Yeah.
he just gets his sleep, bro, straight up.
Yeah, like sleep is sleep for me, right? But if I had the power to pick the ideal sleeping environment I'd be in, it would be. I don't really care about curtains open or close too much, because even if the sun is burning my skin when I wake up, I still won't wake up. So
This is facts.
I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. So for me, it would be the temperature of the room is a really big thing. It's a bit tough for me because I like an in between between the fan and the aircon. Like, when I turn on the aircon, it's too cold, and when I turn on just the fan, it's too hot. So sometimes when I can get like that perfect balance in between, which is like, I'll turn on the fan and the aircon, and then I'll put the aircon on like sleep timer. That perfect balance is usually what I enjoy the most. And music is a big thing when I sleep. I used to listen to a lot of when I was younger. I don't know why I used to listen to a lot of like heavy beat, like heavy rap when I slept. When I realized that probably wasn't a very good thing. Yeah, and I'd wake up and I'd be listening to, like, I don't know, some dubstep, and I'd be like, what the hell? Then I started shifting to listening to ASMR when I sleep, which I find very relaxing.
Yes, sir.
I know me and Jason used to listen to a bunch of ASMR. We used to share, Raffy Taffy,
Dude, Rafi Taffy is my main dude.
Yeah,
man.
like,
shout out
yeah.
to Rafi if you're ever
Yo,
watching this.
Raffy got the good ASMR. As long as you don't watch the video, it ain't weird, right? That
Facts.
shit is good. Yeah, so it'd have to be a balance between listening to ASMR or sad music, depending on my mood. So if I'm having a normal day, I'll listen to ASMR. If I'm having a bad day, I'll listen to sad music. And like, music is really all I need. Like, the sounds to help me go to sleep. It doesn't really matter what bed, whatever I'm on. So the ideal sleeping environment for me would be the right type of music, the right sounds. So yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, why can't I imagine Aaron when he was in his dubstep phase, just like sleepwalking and just like vibing with the music during sleepwalk?
I used to sleepwalk, dude. And I used to sleepwalk. So actual.
That kind of music wakes people up. But for Aaron, apparently, puts him to sleep. So amazing person, Aaron.
I don't know, man. Aaron back in the day was kind of wild, and dude, like, Because
I mean, what's changed, dude? Kappa.
because I was like complaining about my
Yeah, dude,
sleep.
not much, dude.
Hey,
What you mean
hey,
you
shut,
still complain
you
about
keep
sleep?
quiet, dude.
Cap.
Keep your mic muted, dude. Yeah, so, um, I used to, I used to like have arguments with my dad because he was like, "How do you sleep to this? Like, this music is so energetic that your subconscious is going to be awake because it's like someone's like talking to you right the whole time you're trying to sleep." And then I thought about it. After I grew up a bit, I thought about it and I was like, actually, that kind of makes sense. So then I switched it up. So yeah.
Uh-huh. All right, who wants to talk about the sleeping experiences at the ideal sleeping environment next? Abid, would you like to?
Yeah, sure, I can go.
Yeah, okay.
I think my ideal sleeping environment was very much influenced by how I grew up sleeping, to be honest, because my earliest memories are like my best sleeps from when I was young was of the room being extremely cold and my mom watching TV, and that was my background noise really. So as Aaron said, temperature is a big thing for me. I need my room to be decently cold or pretty cold. More on the colder side really. Um, and usually I don't really have the lights on or anything. Usually it's dark, so I usually have all the lights off. The only light source would usually, well, it has been for the past 3+ years, is my iPad, and it just plays videos, whether it be, excuse me, YouTube videos or a podcast or whatever. It'll just run a video, and then there'll be background noise. And that's basically pretty much how I grew up on sleeping. My mom would watch shows while I fell asleep because my mom's a night owl, and I'd go to sleep at like 10 p.m. or whatever. So that's pretty much been my ideal and the only way I've slept my entire life. It's probably the best way I sleep, to be honest. And if you're talking bed configuration specifically, um, it's actually the bed I have in my room right now. Because I kind of went all out when we went to IKEA. But, I mean, obviously, if I could, I'd have a Tempur-Pedic bed and all that with like $3,000 on a bed. But this is pretty ideal. I have a memory foam mattress. I have a memory foam mattress topper, and I have two memory foam pillows. So just memory foam everywhere, and super comfy. Supports you properly. It adjusts to your body, dude. Yo, needing someone that adapts to me. You know what I'm saying? And it just it's a great time. It gives me the best sleep, and I probably have the best bed in the house. Even my parents say so. Um, it's a twin bed, unfortunately, but I mean that's the only thing I would complain about. If it was a bigger bed, it'd be nice, but still, this bed is pretty ideal. It's a good. It gives me good rest.
Uh-huh. That's fair. Jason?
For me, I'd say um it has to be a really cool environment. Like the room or wherever I'm at has to be like super cold. Then I can, that's when I feel like the at most peace. Like I could rest like really well. I can get like one of the best sleeps in a really really cool environment. Then at times I would say it's ASMR as well. Not all the time. I used to use ASMR, rely on ASMR a lot to go to bed, because not like the creepy ones, but the really subtle ones. Um, just like certain sounds that can put me to sleep. Um, but yeah, right now, I would say yeah, it's still the the cold environment. I blast the fan next to me, so then I can only fall asleep. I don't know why, but yeah, I think I just love the cold.
Huh. I
Yeah.
mean, the fan thing is remind me of something. Do your parents turn off the aircon and turn off the fan whenever they want you to wake up? Because I know it's a
Yes,
common meme
Yes,
in
I
subtle
can
Asian
relate
traits.
to that.
I
I can
agree.
I
quite
can
relate to
surely
that.
relate to that, man.
They
Dude.
just turn off all sort of ventilation, coldness in your room, and you're just like, panas, bro.
Yeah, facts.
Panas means
It's
hot.
like mom would be like, you're getting up. I'm like, no. She turns off the AC. You hear the beep, and you're like, fuck.
Bro, you're sweating and you're guaranteed waking up, bro. Yo, and
Facts,
that
dude.
beep, dude, worst feeling on the planet,
Dude,
dude.
the beep is the
The
worst.
beep, honestly, is worse than an alarm that hits at 6 a.m., dude. No lie.
No,
Factuals, yeah.
that's proud parenting right there. If the moms and dads are listening to this podcast,
Yo,
we love you.
all I'm
But
saying is Aaron can't relate, dude. Aaron just sleeps through everything, dude.
Wait, wait. Wait, let me tell you guys, okay? Since my mom's probably
go
watching
ahead.
this. All right, my mom is like, she knows that I can't, like, I'm a heavy sleeper. So if I really need to wake up, sometimes I'll tell her like, oh, pour a bucket of water in my head as a joke. So one time, my mom wanted to eat breakfast with me at uh, at 9 a.m. or something. Yeah, she wanted to have like 9 a.m. breakfast with me, and at the time, we used to only wake up at like 12, right? Or like I used to only wake up at like 11. So what she did was she changed my clock. She changed my clock so that it said it was like 1. And she woke up and was like, "Aaron, get up, you're late." And I woke up and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I woke up late." And then I walked out and I looked at the time and it was 9. And then she dude, this is why I have trust issues. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know. Okay.
No, this is amazing.
Yo,
Dude,
easy,
I'm
easy
still
shout
salty about
outs.
it.
Shout
I'm
outs.
still salty about this. You know?
Clearly, Aaron's ideal sleeping environment is a clock that functions at the correct time.
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
it?
With no outside tampering. That is my ideal sleeping environment.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is crazy. Thank you guys for sharing the
PTSD
sleeping
hit diff on
environment.
Aaron. PTSD
Yeah,
hit
it does it. I wake up and I'm like,
Anyway,
check for
Wait,
footprints in my room, dude.
Is it actual
Yeah,
right.
facts. But yeah.
A common theme among our ideal sleeping environments is sound, right, y'all? And therefore, it's important for our viewers to get up to speed with the songs that we've been listening to. So, don't you think it's a good time for songs of the week? So, in typical alphabetical fashion, Abid, what are your recommended songs of the week?
Ooh.
Wait,
I'm second.
alphabetical is
I'll go
me.
first, dude.
Hello?
I'll go first. No, no,
I
no,
was
no,
I was just
Oh,
gonna
damn,
jack my
no, no,
songs,
no, no,
dude.
no, 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 no. He said me, so
You're
I'm
right.
going first. I'm going
Yo,
first.
Jolly.
I
Is it
don't
an
care.
Aaron? I forgot, bro, because like clearly the.
Yeah, dude, you spell your
I'm
name
sorry, Aaron.
Iran too
Clearly,
much, dude. You spell your name
Yeah.
Iran too much.
I was just gonna
I'm
jack
looking to
my
my
shit, dude.
viewers.
Yo, AB, bro. Superior,
To
bro.
our
Anyway.
viewers, the dashboard in the podcast says AE Ron, and clearly that's not my fault, right? So, as a math
Okay,
major, I have to be
fuck off. You
logical
know
about
my
the
name.
way I see
Iran,
things.
dude.
You know my name.
Anyway.
I'll call you
So,
Judge
Anyway,
from now on. Then.
I'll go first. I'll go first. Say less. I'll go
go ahead,
first.
Abed. Go ahead.
My
I'm sorry,
two
Aaron. Go ahead,
songs for the
Abed.
week. One's a banger that just dropped yesterday. Let's go,
Fuck you.
Manila Grey. It's called Shibuya by Manila Grey, and honestly, amazing song. They're a very underrated artist at this point. They're still relatively underground, fresh out of Canada. You already know Vancouver, West Side Ting. But yeah, they're great. They're great. The song's amazing, super vibey, just a good time overall. And that's number one. My number two is Wire Girls by Black Bear. I think that's no surprise to anyone else part of this podcast right now. But I've been listening to that song all day and night since it released
That's
on
crazy.
Friday. It's from the new Black Bear album. And amazing song, amazing lyrics, very relatable, very relatable. And it has an interesting message. I think most guys and girls or into girls I guess can relate to it, but um, super relatable, super vibey, upbeat, but also sad, which is pretty much my life. So yeah, those are probably my two song recommendations. Bangers.
Well, thank you, Abed. So, in typical alphabetical fashion, Aaron.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so my two songs would be, my first one is from Rich Brian. His new EP came out in 1999.
Facts.
And it is Sometimes. Sometimes is a absolute banger of a song. There's a lot of lyrics in the song that are, very deep. And I feel like it's basically talking about how he needs to stop doing things for other people, and he needs to stop showing face to other people and start doing things for himself. And I think that's a lot of people can relate to that. And it's just it's a very well constructed song. Secondly, it's a bit more of a different take. Crown by Stormzy. When I met a couple of friends the other day, one of them, Ben, showed me the song Crown by Stormzy, and it's just a really interesting. First of all, Stormzy is a very talented rapper from the UK, but I like the idea of how he's talking about the crown as the responsibility that he has to bear the weight of. So how he says the line, "Heavy is the crown, heavy is the head that wears the crown, but he still wears it anyway." So he knows the weight of his responsibilities, but he accepts it and he takes charge. And I think that's a very nice message. So, yeah.
That's cool. Jason?
My first song recommendation would be "Nobody to Love" by Anthony Russo. It's a great vibey song, and the instrumentals is great, and the lyrics are just so cheesy and really relatable in some ways. It's a good car vibe song. And my second one would be "Get to Know" by Talita. It's a new song by a local artist, Talita,
The
local as in
Malaysian.
Malaysian.
Yo,
Malaysian.
she's dude, that song's banging. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, love that song. Love the guitar instrumentals in the background. It's so simple. Again, simple songs that are bangers, and lyrics are really catchy, and just love her voice. Yeah, facts, facts. Anyway, Jude.
Jason just
What
added
is
more
facts,
work for
Abhi?
himself, man.
Jason?
Jason just added more work for himself.
Now, who says this is not going to be in the podcast? So to our viewers, Jason has some interesting insight, but we'll
W.
pick about it later.
ATS
For
moments,
my
dude. ATS moments on.
for my two recommended songs, the first one is by Marshmello and Halsey. Be Kind. It's an upbeat song. It's pretty good. Life is good, How do I describe it? It's life is good. It gives you the life is good vibe.
You know what I'm saying?
But I know it's partially sad in a way. But that's most of the songs in this list, by the way. So it's working. And the second one is a surprise to me as well because I feel like it should be more of a hit than it is right now, and it's by Maroon 5, Nobody's Love. It really hasn't gained the traction as I thought it would, considering it's, for me at least, one of their better songs in the recent era. And yeah, I feel like recommending it to viewers is something I'd like to do because yeah, I just don't feel it's as popular as it is. It's Maroon 5, first of all, a relatable band, a classic band at least, and the song's really catchy. So yeah, those are my two recommended songs of the week. Thank you all for sharing your songs of the week, and with that, it's a wrap. Thank you for the ATS boys, towards the ATS boys for being here. And to you all viewers, thank you once again for tuning in to the 7th ATS cast. Bye, everyone. Say bye, y'all.
See you.
Au revoir.
This is your neighborhood dude, Jude. And as always, take care.